Thank you, Representatives. Further discussion, Representative Parrish.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. To the bill.
To the bill.
So I was asked recently to be on a panel with Senator Ginny Burdick, which was interesting to me because, as you probably remember me saying when we discussed Senate Bill 941, I don't own a gun, we don't hunt, we don't shoot, we don't do any of those things. So to go and actually try to have a conversation with somebody who's been at this for a while on the Senate side was interesting to me. And I spent a lot of time just trying to get some good data points. And so a couple things I learned from preparing for that. Two of the states in the nation that had the most mass shootings, Illinois and Louisiana, both equally have the most gun legislation and next to no gun legislation. But that didn't actually change the mass shooting number, where both of those states had almost equal mass shootings, what was described as 4 or more shot or injured, killed in a shooting. So I thought that was interesting as I was preparing for that. You just heard Representative Leininger mention that there were 497 gun deaths in 2014 here in Oregon. And I want to break that number down for you because 422 of them were suicides. And while those are tragic, how many of those folks, had a right to a gun? Probably all of them. 422 were suicides. 16 of them were law enforcement involved. And 59 of them were homicides. I couldn't tell you exactly off the top. I'm trying to chase the number of how many of those were actually domestic violence, which we're hearing a lot here on the floor today. But if you took and broke down those numbers, and said, okay, what is the solution for people who are trying to kill themselves? Well, we can invest in mental health. What is the solution around domestic violence issues? Colleagues, Representative Taylor and I brought you a bill last session, House Bill 2776, which put temporary protective orders in the field for people who are in situations of domestic violence. That law went into effect in January, and I'm happy to report that our law enforcement officers are already using that as a tool, and they've already been issuing those domestic violence temporary restraining orders. So if we went and said, okay, what are the causes, the true causes of gun violence? Let's break those down. And is the solution really to take away the rights of law-abiding gun owners? I've heard it said here on this floor in other debates that we should not require people to fill out a piece of paper to exercise their constitutional right, but not only with background checks, which I support the 3-day background check that we have right now, but we're asking them to not only fill out a piece of paper, we're asking them to pay fees and to get that done as well. And so I question a one-size-fits-all measure that takes away rights from most law-abiding gun owners. We also get in our email inboxes, colleagues, reports from the Oregon State Police every month that talk about background checks and how many people went through them and how many people failed them and what the reason for failure were, which could include things like having a warrant or being a felon or the adjudicated mental health status. And I have to say I am a little bit bothered that the adjudicated mental health status, it's so hard to achieve that status through the courts, that is, we are not maybe capturing the people who truly are mentally ill because we aren't putting people through that status very often. It's an interesting debate because ultimately this is about the intersection of 4 things: our First Amendment, our Second Amendment, people's rights to privacy, and then the public safety. And so when I look at that and we have this intersection, it doesn't make sense to me to take sort of a one-size-fits-all approach. Rather take this and break it down individually and say, how do we address the suicide gun deaths? A lot of those, Representative Evans and I know, are veteran deaths, frankly. 75% of all the veteran deaths suicides are with a gun. So, let's break this down into bites and make the investments, either money, time, or policy, that match where these instances of gun violence are happening, and let's have some really good policy that actually addresses the needs. And so for that, I'm going to urge a no vote. I appreciate, again, Representative Barker for trying to find some kind of compromise solution, but this one doesn't quite feel like it's there. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative.